good? Brian Tong here, and welcome to the Apple Bits for everything good and bad inside the world of Apple. Big news this week, it is official. Apple just announced their third event in 3 months with this invitation called One More Thing, with all these streaks of color behind a deep blue Apple logo. Remember, there was a time when Apple used to say one more thing at their keynote. Well, now it's the name of a freaking event. We got Techtober, Techvember, whatever you want to call this. This year has been a beast, and I'll get into what we expect here. But first, let's just see what made up clues we can pull from this invite. The event says one more thing, but are they talking about the event as one more thing, or are they only going to talk about one thing as in a product? Because the no-brainer here is the launch of the first Apple Silicon Mac. I can't wait for this. Apple promised we'd see it by the end of the year, but will we also see maybe AirTags or AirPods Studio as the one more thing to the one more thing? You follow? Okay, this is a big reach, but see behind all those colors of light behind the logo? What if Apple brings back the backlit Apple logo and you can change the color of it? I know it doesn't sound like anything Apple would ever do, but come on, we never thought that they would release 4 phones in one single lineup, and they did. And if there's anything that can be really nostalgic but also fresh, is bringing back the illuminated Apple logo on the top of a MacBook. It is within reason, especially for a crazy person like me, so just do it for me, Apple. Now, what else can we pull from this? Let's call it another reach, but whatever they announce, it will have a deep blue or Pacific blue color option, just like they did with the Apple Series 6 and the iPhone 12 lineup. So that's all I got. This is the most generic invite we've seen in a long time, and sometimes if you even do silly things like pump up the brightness in these photos, you'll see hidden things in invites. I did that too, but I got nothing. Like, I tried, y'all. I really tried. All right, so let's talk about what we expect to see at the event. Apple Silicon is the no-brainer. Tim Cook teased it to us at WWDC. Apple will finally be bringing its own custom ARM processor to their Macs. On the surface, I can see the news headlines. They're going to say, Apple is putting their chips from iPhone and iPads into their own computers. That's how news people talk. And the general public will nod their heads and say, oh, okay, that's interesting, and then go about their business. But I don't think people are talking about how transformative this is going to be for Apple, maybe because it hasn't happened yet. But this is one of the most exciting things that Apple has done and will do in a long, long time, other than making their patented pizza box available to the public. Oh, you have no idea. But for me, Apple Silicon, this is huge, and I mean huge, because first of all, there's just some real excitement around this event because we don't know exactly which Mac is really going to feature the new Apple Silicon chip first. There's rumors that have been floating around that it could be anything from a revival of the 12-inch MacBook or the 13-inch MacBook Air and MacBook Pro, both being announced together with the new Apple Silicon chip. Will any of these portables even come with the long-rumored mini LED screen updates that we've been hearing about for, I guess, the past year? Developers, they got early access to a Mac Mini with an A12Z inside of it to test their app, so that's also a possibility that's in play. And I know a lot of you are hoping for a new iMac. I don't think we'll see it here, but really, you got to think anything is on the table right now. Bloomberg, they just dropped a report saying that we are going to see a 13-inch MacBook Air, a 13-inch MacBook Pro, and a 16-inch MacBook Pro at this event. I mean, that's a computer that I'm looking at. So does that get you hyped? Because if it doesn't, I don't know who you are. That gets me hyped. So that's already just making this whole thing worth watching. Now, Apple showed us a peek at the type of performance we can expect just even using an A12Z in a Mac. That's the current processor in the 2020 iPad Pro lineup. They used it with macOS Big Sur throughout the presentation. Excuse me, Big Sur? We got a peek at Microsoft Office in action with Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, and it handled zooming out on a 5 gig Photoshop file of all these birds with ease. But the one thing that got me, 3 streams of full resolution 4K ProRes video at the same time in Final Cut Pro from the A12Z. Sheesh! And let's not dismiss that little Easter egg moment where they were moving around a photo within text on Microsoft Word. I don't think I've ever seen Office move like that, and that's what the A12Z can do. We haven't even seen what the A14X chip can do. That's the rumored name for the first Apple Silicon chip. Internally, it's named Tonga. So if my name is in the code name, am I morally obligated to buy it? But the other benefit from the Apple Silicon chips is a significantly more power efficient chip. Some early reports claim that it could push battery life on a device like the MacBook Air to about double the battery life at 20 hours. That is not an official number, but the current MacBook Air has roughly an 11 to 12 hour battery life, depending on what you're doing with it. Battery life like that would be just another game changer for this product line. Now, Apple's also working on the A14T. It's codenamed Mount Jade. It's the version of the A14 believed to be for desktop Macs. Bloomberg reports that as part of this Apple Silicon transition, Apple is designing a Mac Pro with a smaller form factor that looks like the current design, but in a more compact enclosure that's about half the size. You know, you could all just call that the Mac Pro Mini, right? But that sounds amazing and is indicative of the fact that Apple Silicon chips are more efficient and just don't run as hot, so they can cut down on size there, but it's really the components like video cards and hard drives that they still have to account for. Now, there is no word if they will replace the current Mac Pros or if the Apple Silicon Mac Pros will exist alongside of them. You know, I've had my eyes on that cheese grater on wheels, and I'll definitely look at it seriously once the new model arrives in maybe a year or two. But even talking about all of these benefits, the biggest thing that I'm excited about is the level of integration that is going to open up for all Apple devices, because Apple controls the majority of the hardware and software on the iPhone and the iPad. So you can tell, right? They have this really tight experience, and we've seen how successful those products have been. Now they can bring that same level of control to their own Macs, and I can just only imagine the type of cross-pollination and integration we're going to be able to see between all of these Apple devices beyond what we've seen already. And that's what makes this move really exciting. And, you know, this is just the start for Apple controlling their own chipset future. They will eventually be integrating their own modems into their own devices, because remember, they acquired a majority of Intel's smartphone modem business earlier. Reports also say Apple is working on its own custom-developed GPU to work alongside their Apple Silicon chip in a future iMac, and that will likely debut sometime in 2021. So they're all up in the chip biz, but this transition will not be easy. So let's not pretend like it's going to go 100% smoothly, depending on what you use, which apps are important to you. But the plan is to completely transition their entire lineup in about 2 years. Apple Silicon in a Mac for the first time ever. This is expected to be the big announcement, and I cannot wait. But what about one more thing for the One More Thing event? Now, AirTags, this is at the top of the list. Those are Apple's rumored tracking tags we've talked about. Like, I've done a whole deep dive video, so check that out on my channel. But these tracking tags use ultra wideband technology. Apple calls it the U1 chip, and you'll be able to attach them to different devices so you know where they are at all times. It could be your keys, wallet, or camera, or even your significant other's car, you know, just so you can make sure that they are safe and they're actually at a target like they said they would be, instead of showing up at the Olive Garden parking lot at 1 a.m. But seriously, I think AirTags, you know, they'll be a huge boost and just another benefit to the ecosystem because of just how large the Apple ecosystem is. And this is the ultimate stocking stuffer if they can be ready for the holiday season, because, you know, nothing says I love you like an AirTag that lets you know exactly where your loved one is at all times. The other one more thing that we could still see, Apple's rumored AirPods Studio over-the-ear noise canceling headphones. Now you can check out that in-depth video I did about them as well, but the most recent report from John Prosser says we won't see them until a keynote in March of 2021. Now, nothing is official until it's official, and maybe Apple throws us a curveball and reveals them at this event. I don't think it's likely to happen, but it could happen, and I'd love to see an AirPods Studio with all the ecosystem hooks and how it will throw them right into the mix of this kind of middle tier to high-end headphone game. So that's still there, but Apple Silicon, maybe AirTags, maybe AirPods Studio. I know a lot of you are asking about Apple TV. I don't think we'll see it here. And don't hold your breath for Apple glasses, no matter how much you want to see them this year. Also, some of you are crazy. I put out a poll up on my Twitter, and 5.5% of you still believe an Apple car is coming, and it's what you'd most likely to see here at this event. Now, I could also be completely wrong with all of this, but you know what? We're going to watch how this whole One More Thing event comes together. Plus, you know I'll be doing BTZ's live stream of the event right here on my channel. We'll get the polls going, the bingo. I'll take your live calls, so make sure you come out, watch along, just have some fun with us. That's on Tuesday, November the 10th at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time for the keynote. My live show will start around 8:30 a.m. Pacific. And I just also think it's crazy how Apple knows that next-gen consoles, they're arriving next week. Like Tuesday the 10th is the launch for the Xbox Series X and the S. And then on Thursday, November the 12th for the Sony PlayStation 5. And they didn't even care. They were just like, next-gen consoles? We're good. Let's do an Apple event. They couldn't even wait a week to give the gaming world just some of the spotlight for itself, because you know what? Apple's just a savage. All right, that's going to do it for this video. If you like what you see, give me that thumbs up, subs up, and hit that notification bell, ding, to get my latest videos when they drop. Also, check out my Apple Bits XL audio podcast to get the latest deep dive with all these stories and more every week. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Look, Apple season, we are still deep into it in November. So take care and be safe, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace and love.